Good afternoon and welcome to our midday briefing. We have a couple of announcements for you today. Let me start with an HR matter on our side, an announcement of which I am on one side very sad, on the other side happy for her. But I have to say that our wonderful colleague Lea Zuber is leaving the spokesperson service. Today is her last day with us. She joined in October 23, actually taking my post as competition spokesperson when I became deputy. In the previous mandate, she was indeed following this portfolio together with Eurostat. And now in this mandate, she has been indeed covering competition matters as well as matters relating to the GROW portfolio, the internal market. Over the last 2 years, Lea did really an outstanding job in explaining to you and very often also to us matters that related to state aid, antitrust, mergers, but also very important initiatives such as the Competitiveness Compass, Single Market Strategy, Clean Industrial Deal, and Digital Markets Act. I have to say that Lea has always brought an amazing dynamic in the team. She is a fantastic team player, and we have been absolutely blessed to have her with us for these years. Her professionalism, her knowledge, her kindness really brought an incredible value added to the spokesperson service, and it was a pleasure for me in particular, and I'm sure also for Paola to work with her. We will miss her, but luckily she is not going too far. She will be serving still the European Commission in a new role as Deputy Head of Unit in the Digital Services Act in DG Connect. And therefore, of course, we wish her the best of luck with her new adventure, and just a huge thank you from all of us, and I believe also from our colleagues journalists for all the work of these years. Lea, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you very much, Ariana. Thank you, colleagues. It was really a great privilege to work as a spokesperson and to get a chance to work with all of you. I just wanted to say a big thank you for the excellent collaboration that we had. I really enjoyed our exchanges. I learned a lot from you, and I will miss your professionalism and sense of humor. I didn't know much about the work you do before I joined. Now I know a little bit more, and I know it's really key in how our European project is perceived by our citizens. So I think you have a big burden on your shoulders, and I just wanted to say good luck for your future work. I hope to see some of you in the Brussels bubble, and I leave you in the hands of my very capable colleagues, which I will miss dearly as well. Thank you. Thank you.
Eva. And after this announcement, and a huge thank you to Lea again, I would like to call Eva to the podium with news regarding our response to the wildfires that are sweeping through Europe.
Thank you, Ariana. Good afternoon, everybody. So different topic on the forest fires. We continue basically non-stop to work on the support of affected countries in this time. Only during the past week, Greece, Spain, Bulgaria, Montenegro and Albania activated the EU Civil Protection Mechanism to seek for help with the flames. So let me give you the latest. Yesterday, Spain asked for the assistance and activated the Civil Protection Mechanism for the first time ever for the forest fires, and we quickly mobilized 2 rescEU planes that were stationed in France, and they are expected to be deployed today. Greece activated the mechanism 2 days ago in response to Swedish rescEU helicopters currently in Bulgaria are expected to be deployed. And as you know, our pre-positioned firefighters are joining national teams around Europe. So Overall, the mechanism has been activated 16 times during the current season, and we are in mid-August. So this is already equal to the total amount of activations during the whole summer season last year. So we stand ready. This is the EU Solidarity in Action, and I invite you to read our daily news where you have all the details.
Thanks a lot, Eva. This was all for our announcements. As Eva is here with me, perhaps let's start questions for Eva, if any. Go ahead. Thanks. I forgot my glasses once again, so apologies.
Hello, Beatriz Rios from Antena 3. I was wondering if you could give us more details about how the mechanism works, how can member states request that kind of aid, and what kind of EU aid is available for these kind of situations. And then I was wondering if there is any legislation on prevention of forest fires in the EU, any form of coordination between member states, because we have seen in different countries that they had outdated mechanisms, outdated information they were basing those prevention mechanisms on. So I was wondering if there is any EU legislation on the matter. Thanks.
Fighting the wildfires, it's mainly the task for the member states, but we are here to help them and to assist them with our civil protection mechanism. If you ask how it works, it's a huge coordination work. The crisis center is just a couple of meters from here at the DG ECHO, and it's like a brain of the whole operation. It means that any member state, and it's not just for the member states, because we have also participating countries, they can activate the mechanism. Actually, the mechanism can be activated by any country from the world, even international organizations. And then we coordinate the offers from other member states, which means that we ask the other member states who can take the action. So this is the solidarity I talked about. As for the current situation, because we obviously expected wildfires with the heat wave and with the global warming, we were already prepared for the summer in a sense that we sent the firefighters to the countries that are the most affected, and the firefighters are already there. So it means a country that needs help doesn't need to activate the mechanism every time, because they already have a support.
And perhaps on the legislation, of course, we have a number of activities. This year we presented a preparedness strategy that covers, of course, a broad area of crisis, but is, of course, of relevance. And then perhaps my colleague Maciej can also give details. But, for example, we have also Next Generation EU funds that can be devoted specifically to preparedness activities in various areas, including this one. And, of course, Maciej can detail after if of interest. You have a follow-up. Go ahead. If you always say your name, media outlet, that's super appreciated for all of us.
I said it already, but Beatriz Rios for Antena 3. So you just mentioned that some of those firefighters were already in those countries as a form of prevention. Was the case for Spain specifically? Did you already have teams that were prepared there in case some fires occurred? Thanks.
Yes, it was the case for Spain. There were firefighters, and they were in action in Spain. I would need to check which countries, but basically the firefighters, they take shifts. So it means that firefighters from Netherlands or Estonia, for example, they go to Spain and they spend there 1 month, and then there is a change and some other will come, which is also a useful exercise for the firefighters from countries where the blazes are not so often.
And of course also a way to work together among member states, and in our preparedness strategy we really have synergies between the specialized operators and also the civil population. Do we have more questions on this specifically? Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Magnus with Euractiv. Thank you, Eva. A few things. You say that the civil protection mechanism has been activated 16 times in this summer season alone. Can you just help me chew the food here? Does that mean that it's not 16 countries, is it? But how many countries specifically have activated the civil protection mechanism at this point in this summer season? First question. You didn't also say that I believe Greece, Spain has activated it, Bulgaria has activated it in the last week. Those countries had already activated it by August 1st, according to the Civil Mechanisms Civil Protection Mechanisms Facebook's page. So just to clarify, what does it mean to activate and who's activated it? And then on top of that, are we at a point now where the civil protection mechanism is about to be stretched to its maximum? Do we have capacity to well, we're still fairly early in the summer season. Could there be more? And is the EU equipped to deal with more wildfires? Thank you.
As I said, we are ready to help, and it means we have capacities, and actually, this is based on the solidarity. So it means that through the civil protection mechanism, we offer help, or actually the other member states offer help, and we pay for the cost of these operations. So that's an important part, and we coordinate the actions. As for the number of activations, 16 means that basically, it's 16 countries. I recall the case of Myanmar when there was an earthquake and it was activated by the United Nations, if I'm not mistaken. I can check. But for the rest, for the wildfires, it means that the country activates the mechanism and we coordinate the help. So basically, it's 15 countries.
You have a follow-up?
I'll try to be more brief. No, but maybe we can take it bilaterally then in terms of what European countries has activated specifically for the wildfires, because I'd be interested in that. But on the question of how stretched the civil protection mechanism is, you say that it works on a voluntary basis, that the member states can opt in and Czech firefighters can work in Greece, for instance. But do you have an overview of how much is left? Do you have an idea of if we can deal with so many more wildfires? Just give me an idea of how much is left in the tank.
It's a decision of the member state to ask for assistance or not. Big countries usually have big capacities, and they have increased their capacities in the past due to the effect of the global warming and more often wildfires. You can see that very often it's useful for smaller countries. We often have requests from Western Balkans, Albania, Montenegro, Macedonia. So for these countries, the assistance can be really crucial. And I wouldn't say that we don't have more capacities. I think the situation that we are able to act very swiftly and that we are able to cover the needs of the states that ask for help, I think it shows clearly that we have enough capacities still.
And if I can, I believe that, just to provide maybe an additional clarification, and then Eva can follow up, it's actually 10 different countries that have made these requests on wildfires. So 8 European, I believe, and Eva can then follow up with the details. But indeed, there are a couple of multiple on wildfires. And on the capacity, let's also be clear, like there are personnel and tools that are utilized in one country to settle one wildfire, and let's say that emergency passes, then of course they can be redeployed in another member state. But this is a decision of the member states themselves on whether they think that they can provide the support. So for the question of the pot, let's say that it depends on the global European capacity, on the different strategies and availabilities of member states. And as Eva was saying, this is really a solidarity-based principle, and it is how it operates. And of course, you can always see how the member states are ready to chip in and support one another. And of course, we are here to coordinate and contribute as much as we can. Other questions for Eva? Or Eva, you wanted to add anything?
No, just in case, Magnus, you need a proper list of countries and activations, we can obviously provide you with that. It doesn't make sense that I read it here. Maybe what is interesting, in the past also Syria and Israel has activated the mechanism. So that was also for the wildfires this year. So it shows that we are active even out of Europe.
Other questions for Eva on this? Yes, go ahead.
Julia Kaiser, ARD, German radio. Eva, you just said that in the past the civil mechanisms basically made a difference when it comes to fighting the wildfires. Can you maybe give an example how it made a difference?
How it made a difference? Didn't I say that? Because the countries received an assistance. As I said, some countries that do not have enough aerial capacities, do not have enough planes, they need assistance from the other countries. And obviously, when you fight the flames, time is of an essence. So you need help quickly. So I think this is clearly a difference that can be provided to the affected states.
And perhaps, for example, just on the latest, I believe we have a daily news item published today detailing the interventions. And Eva, I don't recall exactly, but I believe there were helicopters present in Bulgaria that then went to Greece and then went back to Bulgaria that were provided by other member states. So there you can find additional details of the concrete support that was given by the other member states to the member state fighting or to the country fighting the wildfire. But it really depends case by case. Also on the assessment need of the member state fighting the wildfire, because once they made the request, they also can say what type of equipment and support is complementary to what they already have deployed on the ground and what is in their availability, and the other member states try to see if they can provide the specific support needed. So on the specifics, you would need to see case by case. We don't have a general rule, but on the latest, for example, you have it in the Daily News today.
Maybe just to explain, because you are interested, the way how the rescEU fleet operates is that the airplanes are stationed around Europe in different countries. It wouldn't make sense to have them at one place. They are stationed around Europe, and then they can fly wherever necessary. So some of the countries, and again I can give you a concrete list, some of the countries host the planes, and when it's necessary, the planes fly to another country.
Other questions for Eva on this? David, I think I recognize you. Apologies, I tried.
Yes, it's me, David Price, Your Democracy. I have a question on the origin of the fires. I've seen that reports that the majority of fires are for human origin, whether accidental or deliberate, and I'd like if you have an overview on that, and what measures are being taken to prevent these fires taking place in the first place. Obviously, that's important.
I don't have numbers for this year because we are not at the end of the season yet, but as far as I know, last year, you are right, a majority of the wildfires around Europe were man-made. Which is, I think, quite alarming news. And obviously, it's up to the member states to take the right measures to prevent these man-made fires. But obviously, we also pay the price for the global warming.
Thanks, Eva. David, you have a follow-up.
Yeah, it would be interesting to know if you had any breakdown of the causes of the fires, and then obviously that's useful for preventing fires in the future. Has that been done? Has there anything been done, an analysis of the origins?
Absolutely. It would also interest me, and I'm sure that at the end of the season we will have some numbers, and we can provide you with them.
Thanks, Eva. Other questions for Eva on this topic or other topics she covers? Yes, go ahead.
I have a question on Gaza. If Eva can you give us an update on the implementation of the humanitarian understanding between Israel and the European Union? Because if we see what the International Humanitarian Organization issued in their communique, it gives us the impression that this understanding is not implemented at all, because more than 100 NGOs calling Israel to lift the restriction. Dozens of them are threatening they may leave Gaza, the West Bank, and even Jerusalem because of these restrictions. Can you give us an update of the understanding? Second, what the European Union is doing to convince Israel. And I have another question to Anita, maybe later on. Thank you.
I talked about it here on Tuesday, and basically the situation is still the same. We can see some progress on the delivery of the humanitarian aid to Gaza. Nevertheless, it's still insufficient. On what we do on a technical level, we are obviously engaged in talks with Israel, and we try to explain to them our points of views. But the amount of aid that is getting to Gaza is insufficient.
Thanks. You have a follow-up, Nuruddin, and then I have a question from remote.
Eva, but these organizations are, some of them are the partner of the European Union on the ground, means that even if with all your goodwill, things are not implemented. I mean, where is the improvement if there are some trucks get in, but the staff cannot do their job because of the security restriction Israel is imposing now?
Yeah, that's why we talk with Israel, and we repeat all the time that humanitarian aid cannot be politicized, cannot be used as a tool of war or a conflict. And we demand access for our partners, for the humanitarian workers, because there is an unfolding famine in Gaza, and the situation is very critical.
Jerome from remote, I imagine it's on this, and then I return to the press room.
Yes, thank you very much, Ariana. Jerome Hughes here for Press TV. And it's on the humanitarian crisis, and first of all, condolences to the families of the Al Jazeera journalists. But I wanted to ask Eva about recent comments from the Irish President Michael D. Higgins, who suggested that Chapter 7 of the UN Charter should be invoked to allow for a more assertive approach to the catastrophe in Gaza. So does the EU agree that perhaps a more assertive approach is now needed, perhaps to invoke Chapter 7 of the EU Charter, of the UN Charter, to allow a more assertive situation on the ground? I suppose this would involve potentially defence troops on the ground in Gaza. So does the EU agree with the Irish President that a more assertive approach is now needed to try and ease the catastrophe on the ground?
This is actually more a question for Anita. Perhaps you can take it after. We're not usually in the habit of commenting on comments. Our positions are very clear on the matter. Our actions, we have already discussed them in the past middays and remain the same. I don't think we would comment further on this, but of course I will give the floor to Anita just after. Other questions for Eva? Go ahead.
Thanks, Eva. It's Rosie for DW. Can you just help us in our reporting by giving us an example or two of how this situation has improved? You see that you've seen some progress in the delivery of humanitarian aid. How is that manifesting? Thank you.
Yes, there is a couple of examples that I can give you. For example, I don't want to speak about the number of tracks because it doesn't make any sense. It can change every hour, every day. There are a bit more tracks than in the past, but also the deliveries of fuel has improved, and the situation with water, regarding the water pipelines in Gaza.
Thanks, Eva. I do not see other questions for Eva, therefore perhaps Anita can join me. Thanks, Eva. Yes, indeed. You want to take that first? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Anita, 2 days before, Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, said he is implementing on the ground the vision of great Israel, which goes many times. He shows even the maps, part of Sinai until Iraq. There had been reaction from Saudi Arabia, the reaction from Egypt. What is the European Union reaction, straightforward, on the record, to Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu's statement about this spirit of colonial spirit or messianic mission? He spoke about it. And politically, do you think that the appeasement, the policy of appeasement that the European Union, and not only the European Union, is conducting towards Israel, is, by the way, encouraging Mr. Netanyahu and his friends and his government to behave as they are behaving? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nuruddin. I will start first and foremost with recalling our key position and the current context in which we are. And I will do so by structuring my answer in 3 main points in terms of our key priorities right now. And the first priority is, as also having been stated throughout in the extraordinary FAC called by the High Representative, is first and foremost getting the aid into the Gaza Strip in view of the humanitarian situation right there. And you have heard from my colleague Eva the latest on this. The second part is that we need a ceasefire, and this is the best way to secure the remaining release of the hostages held by Hamas. And of course, Hamas cannot have any future in the future of Palestine. So on this, to achieve all these 3 main elements, we are engaging with our counterparts through different rules. The first one is diplomatic outreach. It's the most efficient tool because you need to be able to speak with the counterparts at all times to understand, to listen to each other, but also understand the situation. And this is happening at both political level, with the High Representative being in constant touch with the Israeli Minister of Foreign Affairs, but also the local level through our delegations and through our programs. Now, on the second part, we have discussed this extensively also with Ariana last Tuesday. We have a set of key proposals, so this is why I'm rejecting the claim that you have just had. We have a set of clear proposals on the table of the member states in terms of direct actions. Because we have not only issued statements throughout in view of the horrific situation, in view of the absolute need to release all hostages, but also on the need to ensure that we'll have a sustainable ceasefire in this regard. But also, as a last point, we have also had sanctions that we have adopted against extremist violent settlers. We also had statements in this regard. We want to see also more. That's why we have also additional proposals that are on the table of the Council. And lastly, as a general point, I recall also the position of the EU in this regard, that the EU rejects any territorial change that is not part of a political agreement between involved parties. So annexation of territory is illegal under international law.
Thanks, Anita. Other questions on this? Nuruddin, you have a follow-up? Then perhaps I take other questions because it's already the 4th.
Are you able to denounce what Mr. Netanyahu said in his statement about his vision of great Israel? I understand very well, I record very well that the European Union is against and refusing any kind of territorial change, unilaterally, etc. But are you in a position to denounce what Netanyahu, to condemn what Netanyahu's statement said? Thank you.
Thank you. I will not comment on comments. I will recall our position that I have just done before by the EU when it comes to any territorial change that the EU is rejecting.
Other questions for Anita? Lily, if it's you. I'm trying my luck.
Thank you. Lily for Reuters. Just to follow up on a similar theme, Israeli Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich has approved plans for a settlement that would split East Jerusalem from the West Bank. Do you have a reaction to that move? And then could I also ask on Ukraine, or should I save that for later?
Let's take it as next topic. Let's finish with this one first. Thanks.
Thank you, Lily. Indeed, we have seen the announcements. We're monitoring also the situation in this regard. Also, we have a clear position on Israel's settlement policy, including demolition, including forced transfers, evictions, confiscations of homes. This is illegal under international law and must stop.
Thanks. I do not see other hands raised relating to Gaza. Perhaps from remote, Johannes, if it's on Gaza. Otherwise, we change topic and I go back to Lily.
Hi, it's not on Gaza. It's not on Gaza.
Okay, then I would, as Stefan would say, I put you in the freezer. You see, I start missing Stefan very much if I even start quoting him. Let's go back then to Lily's question. Thanks.
Thank you. I also wanted to follow up on the call that President von der Leyen and others participated in with President Trump yesterday. Several leaders have indicated when speaking after the meeting that President Trump had offered for the U.S. to contribute to security guarantees for Ukraine. I was wondering if you could confirm that, and also if you have any thoughts on what the next steps would be, because Europeans have been engaging in talks as part of the coalition of the willing on possible future security guarantees. But if the U.S. would take part, what would be the next steps in this coordination? Thank you.
Thanks a lot for the questions, Lily. Indeed, first of all, as we had announced, I can confirm that President von der Leyen has participated yesterday to the various calls between European leaders, President Zelensky and President Trump, relating to Ukraine. I am sure that you have seen on social media some comments from the President relating to these calls. She has said in particular that they have had very good calls, that they exchanged upon the bilateral meeting that will take place between President Trump and President Putin tomorrow in Alaska, and that the calls allowed Europe, the US and NATO to strengthen the common ground for Ukraine. She also has confirmed that we will remain, or she will remain, in close coordination with the other leaders. She has also reiterated, of course, that nobody wants peace more than Europe and Ukraine and the US, a just and lasting peace. For what concerns security guarantees, what I can say is that the US President said indeed yesterday that the US would participate. The details on this are for the US administration to answer. Europe's position on this matter is extremely clear, and it is that there has to be a need for a robust and credible security guarantee that enables Ukraine to effectively defend its sovereignty and territorial integrity. So if I can use the words of the President to explain the concept, she has made reference many times to the steel porcupine strategy, so to make Ukraine completely indigestible for an external aggressor. On next steps, I don't have much to say at this stage. We need to see what comes out of this meeting, and at this stage we cannot speculate further. You have a follow-up. Go ahead, Lily.
It's just a logistical question. As you said, we don't know what will happen on Friday, but do you already have a sense or timings on any consultations that could happen on Saturday, any timings for phone calls or details on formats? Thank you.
I do not have details. Our understanding is indeed that President Trump will debrief President Zelensky and European leaders following his bilateral meeting. We don't have a specific time frame I can share with you on this. It also depends on the timing of the meeting, length, etc., time differences, but our understanding is indeed that there will be a debrief. Go ahead.
Hi, Camille Condessu, AFP. So, if my understanding is correct, the meeting will be at 9:30 p.m. our time Friday. Can you walk us through exactly how President von der Leyen will be monitoring that meeting? Will she be in Brussels? Does she already have precise calls scheduled? Anything you can give us? Thanks.
I cannot confirm where the President will be, but of course, wherever she is always in contact with her team. She follows all matters of relevance for Europe, and of course, this is a clear matter of relevance for Europe. She is in constant contact with European leaders, President Zelensky, and as I just said, she has had these calls with President Trump just yesterday. As I was saying, she will be debriefed by President Trump in our understanding, but the exact format and timing I cannot confirm. I believe it will be a call, but on the timings of it I don't have details to share at this stage. Razia, yes, go ahead.
Thanks so much. Razia Akoch, AFP News Agency. I just wanted to ask, maybe I've been thinking too much about the next Taylor Swift album, but when you said US and NATO, Europe, to strengthen the common ground for Ukraine, what does that mean? Just to understand, because I understand it's the idea of everyone being on the same page, but in terms of the details, I just struggled with it, and I don't know if it's just me having a summer brain. Thank you.
Thanks for the question. So a number of outcomes came out of the meeting yesterday. There was generally a common position that the first step should be a ceasefire. The current line of contact is the starting point for negotiations. This was also something that was mentioned already by European leaders the other day. Also, a clear outcome of the meeting is that it is for Ukraine to decide on the matter of territorial integrity. Furthermore, on security guarantees, Ukraine forces must be able to defend their country. And of course, we welcome that the US President has said that the US would participate to such security guarantees. Last but not least, another point of general consensus was pressure on Russia. From our side, we know very well that sanctions work. They're putting high pressure on Russia. We have already 18 sanction packages implemented. As we have been saying already in the previous days, we are currently working on a 19th package. Also, we continue our military support and the scale-up of military investments in Ukraine and in Europe. Also on this, we have provided extensive details in the past, but of course, colleagues stand ready to provide additional information if needed. So basically, we will continue to make all efforts to ensure that Ukraine is put in a position of strength in the negotiations with Russia, if and when they take place, and of course also has the capabilities to defend itself in the long term in the future. Other questions on this? I see a number of hands raised. Let's go to this side of the press room. I've been taking questions from here yet.
Hi, hello, Matteo Bagnoli, ANSA, the National Italian News Agency. Regarding on this particular topic, the sanctions, some say there is a rumor that the EU may be willing to revisit the sanctions in the case that Russia would agree on a ceasefire or perhaps something more substantial than a ceasefire. I would just like to know if there if this one is perhaps a proposal coming from some member states, or there is a specific plan from the ES, the EU, the Commission, something that is coming from Brussels as opposed to proposals from the capitals. Thank you.
Let me be very clear. Europe will maintain pressure on Russia. As I just said, we have already adopted 18 sanction packages, and we're working on the 19th. Hopefully, we will be able to adopt it next month. So that's a bit the time frame we have in mind. And as I said, we know sanctions are working, and we will maintain pressure on Russia. All other are pure speculations. This is a reality. Europe continues to maintain full pressure on Russia. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Clara Grandelet for Japanese newspaper Asahi Shimbun. On the topic of sanctions, I've seen reports that China has imposed sanctions on 2 Lithuanian banks as a consequence of European sanctions on Chinese banks linked to the war in Ukraine. Did you get a formal notification about it? What's your reaction? And are you in touch with Lithuania? Thanks.
This is a related question, but I would try to see if there are other questions more specifically on the calls. And after, I will call my colleague Olof to join me for that answer specifically. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, just a brief one. Thank you very much, Ariana. It's Rosie Burchard for DW. This openness of the US to participate in security guarantees is a policy shift from the US side. Do you see this as a success, as a direct result of your diplomacy? Thank you.
It is something we welcome. It doesn't matter exactly how you arrived to this point. The important aspect is that the US has said that they are willing to do so. And of course, we very much welcome all efforts that will guarantee the possibility for Ukraine to be in a solid position to defend itself. So, as I said, this is one of the positive outcomes of the meeting. Go ahead.
Hi, thanks. Alina Samsonia for ARD German television. Kind of a follow-up. The tone after yesterday's calls was very positive, as you also just stated. But as we kind of know, whoever speaks to Trump last has best chance of convincing him. What if the results wished for will not be achieved Friday? How can the EU up the pressure even more?
Thanks indeed. Yesterday's call was a very good call. This is in the words of the President, so I can only confirm that this was the perception from her side. Let me also just reiterate that this is part of intensive contacts that have been taking place between administrations over the last weeks, including at the level of national security advisors. This leaders' call was, of course, the build-up of many iterations. And also, let me just confirm that we're in constant contact with the European partners and the Ukrainians on these matters. The US is very well aware of the positions of Ukraine and Europe, both on the need for a just and lasting peace, as well as on Ukraine's and Europe's vital security interests. So we are sure that there is full awareness in this sense. On the meeting, this is a bilateral meeting with 2 leaders. What Europe is aiming at is it's actually welcoming any meaningful, any effort that will lead to meaningful negotiations for what is a just and lasting peace for Ukraine. We cannot, of course, speculate on the outcome of the meeting. What we can say, as I was saying, is that Europe is completely prepared to maintain its full pressure on Russia, as it has been doing from the very beginning of this war, and is prepared to doing in the long term. Our support to Ukraine is unwavering. This meeting tomorrow is, of course, a contact between 2 leaders. We will see what comes out of it, but the intentions of Europe remain the same. Other questions on this call, on the calls? Otherwise, I will give Olof the possibility to answer on the banks. Jacob from remote. And apologies, Anita, for having kept you here with me. And then I see one question there. Yeah, 1 second.
Thanks, Ariana. Jacob from Handelsblatt. Just to follow up on the security guarantees, we also heard that Trump said the U.S. would be willing to participate in the security guarantees, but as long as they're not part of NATO, is that something that you can confirm? And on the other points where the U.S. and EU agreed on yesterday's call, the European perspective for Ukraine, was that something that both agreed on, or is President Trump not willing to guarantee that Ukraine maintains its or that the West maintains its door open to Ukraine? Thank you.
On the security guarantees, I think I have said it already. What I can say is that the US has said that they would participate, but on the details of this participation, it is for the US administration to answer, so I'm not in a position to comment on that. For what concerns Ukraine's European future, Europe is extremely clear. This is a choice of Ukraine above all, actually exclusively. It is a matter that has to be for Ukraine to decide. Then, of course, if they wish to continue on the European path, as they have reconfirmed time and time again, Europe will support them, and of course, then it will be a sovereign choice of the member states to complete this process. But the decision should and has to remain with Ukraine only. Other questions on this? Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Augustin Palokaj from Youth and Release, Croatia. Also on security guarantees, is EU going to formally participate in providing security guarantees in sense of possible presence on the ground? I'm asking this because so far the discussions have been in coalition of willing, including UK, France and main European countries. But if you put this in the Council, probably there might not be unanimity among member states. So what kind of guarantees is EU prepared to offer formally?
I think this is premature. We are not there yet. What I can say is only reiterate what the leaders have said themselves in their statement of the beginning of the week, and it is that Europe and its member states are ready to further contribute to the security guarantees based on the respective competences and capabilities, also importantly in line with international law and in full respect of the security and defence policy of certain member states, and taking into account the security and defence interests of member states. So this is what the leaders have said at the beginning of the week, and it would not be appropriate for me to now try to interpret this wording in details that are premature at this stage. Sophie from Remote.
Hi, it's Sophie here from the BBC. So we're already hearing reports of a trilateral meeting between Trump, Zelensky and Putin. Is Europe going to be pushing for a seat at this table for these talks?
So, where we are now is that there will be a bilateral meeting tomorrow. As I said, we support any effort that can lead to meaningful negotiations on a just and lasting peace for Ukraine. Any consideration of what could happen after or not is a speculation, and at that stage we will not be commenting on it. Other questions on the call specifically? No, I do not see hands raised. If I'm missing any, please move. Ksenia, is it on this?
It's kind of on this. You mentioned the timeline for the 19th sanctions package for the first time, I believe. So I was just wondering whether you could provide us with any information on that. I have to try. Maybe you could reveal some new feature or a sector that the sanctions package is going to go towards. Thank you.
It is a very nice try, and I really appreciate the sweetness of it, but I'm afraid that no, we will maintain our usual practice of not commenting on sanctions packages that are under preparation. And with this, I'll ask Olof to join me for the reply on the banks. Thanks.
Okay, thanks for your question. So first, just let me remind you what the context is here. So in our most recent sanctions package, so our 18th sanctions package, the EU widened the transaction ban to financial operators in third countries that circumvent or facilitate the circumvention of sanctions or support Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine, including by financing trade to Russia of dual-use goods found on the battlefield in Ukraine. In this context, 2 Chinese financial operators were subjected to sanctions because they were found to have facilitated financial transactions that support Russia's war effort. This ban entered into force on August 9th. What this means in practice is that EU operators are prohibited from making transactions with these entities. Since then, China has announced its intention to impose countermeasures against 2 Lithuanian financial entities. From the European perspective, we see no evidence or justification for such countermeasures. We're going to look at them in detail, as we always will, but our initial analysis is that this has no justification whatsoever. But the important thing to keep in mind here is that even before these countermeasures were announced by China, we had been engaging in a very constructive way with China on the issue of the sanctioned Chinese banks. So we have done that on the basis that we're fully open to identifying a mutually acceptable solution that could ultimately lead to the delisting of these Chinese banks. But in order for that to happen, of course, the circumvention that is happening through those banks needs to be addressed. So we continue to talk to China. We're open to finding a negotiated outcome, but it must respect the problems we have identified.
Thanks, Olaf. You have a follow-up. Go ahead.
Yeah, on the aspect you said, have the Chinese made it very clear to you that basically if the EU delists their banks, they will they won't put sanctions on the Lithuanian ones? And then on the aspect of contacts with the Lithuanian government or support to them, anything you can say on that?
Thanks for your follow-up. So look, we're not going to comment on the discussions we're having with our Chinese counterparts. As I've said, they have been very constructive so far, and we're committed to finding a mutually agreeable solution that would enable us to delist the banks. And of course, our expectation would be that, in turn, their countermeasures would be removed in that case. But just to emphasise, again, we don't believe that those countermeasures have any justification or evidence base, and therefore we call on China to remove them even now. And in response to your question about whether we're in touch with Lithuania, yes, of course. It's essential that we are in touch with our member states when they're affected by measures of this kind, but we're in touch with all our member states as regards sanctions at all times, including in putting together the next package. So, I mean, this is ongoing work. Our sanctions are the centrepiece of our efforts to minimise the effectiveness of the Russian war machine, and we remain fully focused on that work.
Thanks, Olaf. Other questions on this matter specifically? Oh, you have another follow-up. No? It's okay. Let me just check. Other questions on this matter specifically? No? Then go ahead with your question. Was it on this? Sorry. Yeah, okay. Then first to the back and then the other question. I'm not going to try to guess so far.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry, this is Anton Muto for Japanese TV and HK. This is a follow-up on this, since I'm not sure whether I understood whether you already addressed this problem, this countermeasures issue to your Chinese counterparts. Thank you.
Thanks for your question, Antoine. I'm not aware that we've already been in touch on it, but this is a very recent thing, so I'll have to double-check that and come back to you. But I mean, as I said, we've already been involved in a very constructive engagement with China as regards our sanctioning of 2 Chinese banks, and so those discussions will continue. And as part of that, I'm sure these countermeasures will also feature.
Johannes from Remote, is it on this matter? Before we open the floor to other questions for Olaf on different topics?
No, it's on grocery prices. It's a different matter.
Grocery prices.
Okay, then let's wait 1 second. Sorry. Let's continue with Olaf questions. Yes, or questions for Olaf, not Olaf questions.
Yes, still for Olaf and still on China. I wanted to know about the EV cars from China. can you update us? Can you tell us anything? Are there currently discussions going on, or is there a pause at the moment? And then are you seeing any improvements to the market situation in Europe? Do you have any monitoring system in place to check, if the duties are having an effect?
Thanks for your question. I don't have anything new to share on our ongoing talks with China as regards finding a negotiated solution to the battery electric vehicle issue. I'll have to check if there's been any recent contact. Contact is ongoing, but as we said here from Tuesday, we're now in August, so I can imagine that maybe at this precise moment in time things might be a little calmer. But we remain fully open to finding a negotiated solution, provided it is effective in addressing the problems our investigation identified in the first place. And on your second question, I didn't really understand. Are you asking me about imports of Chinese electric vehicles into the EU? But what specifically?
Well, the duties were put in place to, let's say, help with the situation in Europe of the market. I'm just wondering if you've seen any change. Is there any monitoring system to see, oh, look, the duties we've put are having an effect, or no, nothing has changed?
Thanks for your question. It's a fair question. I don't have the export stats to hand. I'll look into them for you and come back to you on that. I mean, it's important to recall that we didn't put the duties in place for no reason. We put the duties in place to level the playing field. We welcome exports into our European market. We welcome our consumers having a diversity of choice. We didn't want to have to impose tariffs in the first place, but we identified clear examples of unfair trade practices that needed to be remedied. As regards the statistics, I'm not aware, as I said, of what the latest statistical picture is. I'll come back to you on that, but that's really all I can say for the moment.
Other questions for Olof? Alice, is it for Olof? If you're Alice, I think you are. I will remember glasses.
It is Alice for the Financial Times. Hello, and it is for Olof. Could we have an update on the status of the joint statement for the EU-US trade deal? And are there any concerns that President Trump has not yet signed into effect the executive order on cars, lowering it from 27.5 to 15? Thank you.
Thanks for your questions, Alice. On your second question, no, there are no concerns. As I've said from here, you've heard me say many times, the US has made political commitments to us in this respect, and we look forward to them being implemented. On your first question, yes, I can provide a small update. So you've heard me say from here, I think on a number of occasions in the last, in the last week, that the ball is in the US court on, as regards making some substantial progress on finalising the joint statement. I'm now happy to confirm that we have received a text from the US with their suggestions for let's say, getting closer to that finalisation of the document. So we're going to look at that now. We'll have some engagement at both technical and political level with our American counterparts, and we keep the work going forward in that sense. I must repeat that we are fully focused and committed to getting that joint statement finalised and ready for you all to read ASAP. The speed with which that happens depends on both sides giving it, full engagement and full focus. And from our side, we can certainly say that we will be doing so. So we have received a text from the Americans. We're looking at it now. We're going to make our suggestions back. We ping-pong it forward and back until we get to a final text. And I hope we can get there soon.
Let's go to Edith, who hasn't asked a question yet, and then Razia.
Thanks very much, Edith Hancock, Dow Jones Newswires. Just to follow up on that then. So I guess it was last week we were under the understanding that the joint statement was 90 to 95% ready. Something's been pinged back to the EU now to do final tweaks. Are we at 97, 98, 99? How much more back and forth does there have to be before this is basically done and ready for us to write about?
Thanks for the question, Edith. Look, I'm not going to go beyond what Commissioner Šefčovič said, which was the last mile is always the hardest. So, a lot of substance is agreed, the vast majority. But those last final tweaks are important. This is an important document. This is our roadmap for where we take things from here, and we need it to be right. So that's all I can say for now. Bear with us.
Other questions on this? Alice?
Sorry, it's just a minor follow-up. Could you give us any indication of what these last elements that, I imagine you can't, but what these last elements are that you are finding difficult to finalise? Thank you.
Thanks, Alice. I love it when journalists answer their own questions. So your imagining is correct. I can't tell you more at this stage.
Okay, thanks. Razia, you have a question, and then I'll take a last question from Johannes to end.
The thing is, we always love the word soon in this room, and you kind of said, I hope we can get there soon, but will we get there soon? Thank you.
Razia, hope springs eternal. We're very hopeful here in the European Commission. We've done so much work to get that 95, 96, 97% ready, and we are now going to invest our substantial, high-level skills from this House into transmitting our final views to the US, and then it'll be over to them again to try and get this over the line. I know it's tedious for you all, and that I say that, I'm kind of saying repeatedly that we're close. That is a factual analysis of the matter. We are close. We just need to get those final tweaks over the line, and then we take it from there.
Thanks, Olof. I will now take the question for Johannes, which, if it is on the topic I understood, is the perfect ending to Lea's last midday. So thanks, Olof. And Johannes, over to you.
Hi, Johannes here from Austrian National Television and Radio, ORF. I have a question about grocery prices, because it just came out that the Austrian economy minister wrote a letter to the EU Commission on August 9th, and he asked the Commission to bring forth a legislative proposal within this year to ban territorial supply constraints in the food and grocery sector. It is a practice which leads to groceries, for instance, being more expensive in Austria than in Germany. And this is a situation that is often dubbed the Austria surcharge. Could you confirm whether the Commission plans to table such legislation before the end of this year, and if so, when exactly? Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot for the question. First of all, let me confirm that we have indeed received the letter, and that we are very much aware of this issue. So first of all, we have been dealing with the, let's say, unjustified high prices in the grocery sector already through our competition law tools. We had the InBev case, the Mondelez case more recently. And as you can read in our single market strategy for this year, which was adopted towards the end of May, we have announced, or we said that we are indeed looking into instances where these situations of high prices cannot be tackled by competition law rules, nor they are justified or explained by objective factors such as regulatory or cost differences between member states. What we are working on now, and as announced in the strategy, we are looking at tools, including legislative tools that could help address this problem. And in the strategy, we have announced a proposal tentatively for the last quarter of 2026. That being said, of course, this is only a tentative date, so I think my colleagues will have to keep you posted if anything changes here.
Johannes, you have a last follow-up? Is it on this? No? Then...
Yeah, just a follow-up, because the minister specifically mentioned that the Commission already has a strategy in this regard. So do I understand you correctly that the Commission does not plan to put forth a legislative proposal within this year?
So within this year, it's not what we have announced in May. So what we have announced in May is that we are looking into tools. I cannot now tell you where there is certainly a legislative tool, but it can be. And the timeline in May was for end of 2026. But as I say, I mean, things can change, but you also need to know that to propose legislation specifically, there are certain steps that we need to undertake, and that, of course, also take some time.
Thanks. We've been together for more than an hour, so this brings us to the end of our press briefing. I understand not all questions were answered, but like always, we remain at your disposal for on-the-record comments even after the midday. I would just like to thank Leah once again. It's a perfect ending for this midday to have you here with me. And I wish you all a very nice weekend. Thank you for having participated. We will be back on Tuesday with our next press briefing. Goodbye.
对吧？糖是胜糖。